A tone of consciousness. Just listen with your breath.
Hi, this is Dreamwalker. Today, we're going to talk about something called persona calibration and how it functions within what I describe as the simulator. In some of my previous videos, I mentioned that during the process of creation, whether I publish content or not, a certain frequency is still being transmitted. This frequency can be received and then used in cooperation with what we might call the simulation system. From that perspective, the simulator does not randomly select patterns. It looks for specific personality templates, what I refer to as persona samples, to use as references for calibration. So in this video, let's slow things down and understand what that actually means. Before the age of around 40, most people are still living inside what could be called a life script phase. For certain individuals, especially those in a main controller role, these scripts tend to be more intense. Sometimes difficult, sometimes extremely heavy. Because every person born into this system starts with an original template, something like a base pattern that comes from a deeper source. Then through life experience, through everything you go through, everything you endure, everything you react to, that original template begins to merge with lived experience. And over time, this fusion gradually forms your own version of a personality. If that personality becomes clear enough, stable enough, and relatively undistorted, it can evolve into a refined persona sample of your own. Now here's the important part. Up to a certain stage, life is about accumulating experience. But after that, the process begins to reverse. Instead of adding more, you begin to remove. Letting go, releasing, decluttering internally. Everything you learned, everything you absorbed, everything you thought was you, starts to be processed and, in a way, dissolved. Because most of what you think are your thoughts, your reactions, your beliefs, did not originate from you. They came from parents, education systems, culture, social expectations. This is what I would call third-dimensional conditioning. If these layers are not released, they remain attached to your base personality as noise or distortion. Let's make it more practical. If you are constantly interacting with people, family, friends, partners, you naturally begin to adjust yourself. You soften your words. You filter your reactions. You maintain harmony. Over time, you may not even notice it, but you are slowly becoming a version of yourself that is shaped by others. Not necessarily fake, but no longer purely your own. This is why, in extreme cases, a fully pure persona requires a very high level of independence. Not as a rule to follow, but as a structural condition. Because the more entangled you are in emotional exchanges, the more external influence gets embedded into your personality field. Now let's connect this back to the idea of calibration. From this framework, the simulator can take a refined persona sample and distribute it as a kind of baseline frequency. You can think of it almost like a subtle layer being introduced into the collective field. And here's where it becomes interesting. For someone going through a difficult phase, what I might call a breakdown period, when their own system can no longer hold itself together, something else may surface. A different tone, a different perspective, a different response pattern. Almost like a voice that wasn't there before. If that person has been exposed to a certain type of content, or a certain type of personality, that pattern may appear internally at the exact moment they need it most. Not as control, but as an option, a possibility. And in that moment, they may suddenly be able to let go of something they were never able to release before. Now here comes the key question. If we say, don't let others define you, then what about learning from someone? Isn't that also a form of influence? Yes, but not all influence is the same. When you unconsciously absorb the expectations of people around you, you are being shaped without awareness. But when you consciously observe a certain pattern, and choose whether or not to integrate it. That is a different process entirely. One is passive conditioning, the other is selective alignment. However, there is still a risk. When you learn from someone, you don't just take the parts you like. You take everything. Their clarity and their confusion, their strength and their distortions. All of it comes as a package. So if the person you are modeling is deeply entangled in relationships, roles, and identities, then what you are downloading is not a clean signal. It is a composite, layered, mixed, and often contradictory. This is why, from this perspective, a usable persona sample needs a certain level of clarity. Not perfection, but low noise. Interestingly, complete purity is also not ideal. A 0% distortion state would be almost mechanical. No emotional depth, no human texture. The optimal range is somewhere in between. A small amount of noise that still allows human connection, but not enough to distort the core. So when you choose who to observe, who to learn from, or who to resonate with, their structure matters. Not just what they say, but how they exist. To summarize, persona calibration is not about copying someone. It is about how certain patterns become available within the system of human experience, and how, at the right moment, those patterns can help stabilize a collapsing state. Whether you see this as frequency, psychology, or metaphor is not important. What matters is this: you are constantly absorbing, constantly shaping, constantly refining. So the real question is not who is influencing you, but rather, what are you choosing to keep? And what are you ready to let go?
Thank you for listening. Stay with your breath and let it settle.